It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
Coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out his website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. We'll give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's Island for an authentic Italian meal. And speaking of St. Simon's, don't forget, we're doing our biggest, our best Billy C get-together. I can't emphasize enough to all you boys and girls out there that you got to be part of the next Billy C Boxing get-together. It's taking place now. I know it's going to sound like a long way off, but it's taking place September 13th, 14th, and 15th at the Sea Palms Resort. It's going to include all kinds of stuff. First and foremost, a birthday party for our show. That's right, we're entering our 15th year, so we'll be celebrating that. We're going to have a meet and greet where you guys will be able to meet and talk to one-on-one with several former world champions and celebrities. There'll be food there for you, a really good time at the Sea Palms. We also will have a golf tournament, a fishing tournament. We're going to be crashing Sal's place. We're going to have a memorabilia show going on. We're going to have a fight night. So, listen, trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. Now, you're going to need a ticket to get in because space will be limited. So, you got to drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com to get put on that list. Now, this will cover everything except lodging. There's plenty of opportunities on St. Simon's or the other Golden Isles, as well as the city of Brunswick. So you shop around and get the best deal. I do recommend you stay at a Holiday Inn property because you can get a Billy C discount. That's right. Call toll-free 844-603-0364. That's 844-603-0364 and get a automatic Billy C discount for any time you want to stay someplace at a Holiday Inn. Listen, by the way, if you are not good with numbers like me, then don't worry about it. Just visit the website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the banner. It's right there. And today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to the show. Just go to BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting Tom Molyneux's story told. Coming up a little bit later, Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazzard scheduled to join us. Our Blast from the Past, yeah, it's that day again. Blast from the Past will be taking place. Alex Pabali will present it this week, and it's on former multi-division world champion Meldrick Taylor, so you're not going to want to miss that. Some news that I want to talk about today, two big topics, and then we got some other topics coming up a little bit later. Floyd Mayweather gets implicated in a sponsorship fraud. We'll talk about that. Also, more troubles for Adrian Broner. What a jerk this guy is. We'll talk about that. But I want to kick off the show with two topics. First and foremost, two big issues in the news today. Number one, Canelo Alvarez has officially dropped out of the fight with Triple G, stemming from all of the evidence that's stacked up against him, although he's never admitted it and still doesn't, which kind of bothers me. And the other topic is both Team Deontay Wilder and Team Anthony Joshua. They're keeping up with the facade, the BS. Oh, I'm fighting. Oh, this. Oh, he doesn't want to fight. He wants to fight. We'll talk all about that. But first, Canelo withdrawing from the Triple G fight. Joining me right now with his thoughts is my partner. I say my partner in crime, Sal Rocky Senicola. Sal, what's your thoughts? Canelo withdrawing from the Triple G fight on Cinco de Mayo.
Well, good morning, Billy C. I'll tell you, I think that the reality is setting in Canelo, because I'll tell you, the first thing when it's on the surface, this thing was first rumored and talked and spoken about, what's going to happen, how it's going to play out. And now, since yesterday, and Bob Bennett, looking to possibly hint that he's going to put the hammer down, has maybe turned the tide and leverage, so to speak, away from Canelo Alvarez. And I think this is more evident. And I think he's going to be backpedaling and doing a lot of things that he should have been doing in the beginning. But we're going to see, what is it, April 10th, the final cry out of what's going to happen as far as his future?
Well, I've been hearing conflicting dates. Originally, I heard April 10th, and then more recently, April 18th. But there's some issues about that too. My man Mitch had dropped me an email, and he was bouncing some of his thoughts off of me, and one of them was pretty much setting up the whole landscape to Bob Bennett covering his butt by saying that we're going to do this, but it still would go before the board of directors for the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and they could have still voted. Everything gets done on a vote. There's, I believe, 6 people or 5 people, either 5 or 6 on the board. So they could have voted, and still Canelo could have been approved to fight. So all of that is thrown out the window. It's neither here nor there anymore because Canelo officially withdrew. He did give a statement. And it is, as I quote, "I am surprised what happened, and I regret this. I want to apologize to everyone. This really hurts me. This is difficult for me to go through. I feel really frustrated, but I'm calm and I'm relaxed. I've always been a clean fighter and will continue to be a clean fighter. I have always tested voluntarily because I'm a clean fighter. I've informed the Nevada State Athletic Commission to do all the testing to clarify the situation. I'm positive I'm a clean fighter. I respect what I do this, but this isn't the exception. I'm a clean fighter." When his team has been, steadfast and strong, saying that the levels that were found all are in line with the result of the contaminated meat in Mexico. Canelo says concerning that, this has been the case in Mexico with contaminated meat, as it's been the case for many athletes. I respect the Nevada State Athletic Commission's rules, their sanctions, and their regulations. With this experience, I will take more precautions. I'm clean. I'm a clean fighter. I don't really care what Golovkin and his team have to say. Unfortunately, the rematch is going to have to wait. We want to settle the score with Triple G. Without a doubt, that is the fight in boxing. I'm a clean fighter. I think he thinks he's a clean fighter. I mean, he has said that 100,000 times in these comments, Sal. He's not a clean fighter. The facts are the facts. He tested positive enough to warrant all of this. As far as him suggesting that the fight should still go on, I feel very strongly about the fact that I believe that Team Triple G should say, forget about it with you, Canelo. Walk away from the fight. Billy Joe Saunders, I saw, whether it was legit or not, I saw a tweet from him yesterday that says, I'm willing. Now, he said he wasn't willing last week, but he says, I'm willing to replace Canelo against Triple G. I still think that Triple G could go fight Billy Joe Saunders in the UK and make the same amount of money that he would have made fighting Canelo. I say box Canelo out due to this. What's your thoughts on all of that stuff I rambled on about?
Well, that's good. I like it because I usually am the one rambling. But it was good to hear everything you had to get off your chest, Bill. That was a lot. but I'll tell you what, buddy. I share the same sentiments here. I think that Triple G. Hey, let's be really realistic too. I do want to see Triple G and Canelo Alvarez fight. I really do. There's only two fights really I care about to see over that take place over the next couple of months, and that is Triple G, Canelo Alvarez, and we are talking about Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. Now, the reality is probably closer to see Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. And Triple G and Canelo Alvarez hopefully will resume, as they suggest, round 13, but it's not going to happen in May. And it's a shame because the boxing fans are the ones that lose. Now, this is going deeper and extending further than I'm sure Canelo Alvarez has ever anticipated. Because, now once the question is going to start raising, how long has he been involved with this kind of stuff? When did they last check before with each fight for different substances? I mean, that's going to be rumored anyway. And, he suggests he's always been a clean fighter. But, once you have that tainted meat syndrome, or that you have not done everything clean or by the book, you've got a lot to prove going forward. And it's always going to be suggested, well, I knew he was juiced up, or I knew this, I knew that. That's just going to be the rhetoric. That's just going to be the outcry by some of the people that do not really hold Canelo Alvarez in a favorable light. So this is just starting to expand, and the can of worms has been opened.
Sal, I agree with you that it's a highly anticipated and warranted fight, the rematch, and I also agree that it's right behind, and I mean that it's behind the demand for AJ against Deontay. But in this particular case, it does not make sense for Triple G, especially now. When I say this, I look at the whole picture, and you have to, at times actually believe what these fighters say. Triple G has said that his main goal in the sport is to retire as a unified champion. Canelo didn't bring anything to the table in terms of unification. Technically, he's got the linear title, but that's it. Everybody that watched, 99% of the people that watched the fight felt that Triple G won the first fight. So really, there's nothing left for him to prove except fight and win against Billy Joe Saunders. As far as Canelo, I tell you what, it almost seems like they're kind of happy that this happened so that they could stretch it out and possibly get the Triple G rematch in September. And like I suggested yesterday, Sal, that makes Triple G, who we all know only has a fight or two left in him, he's no spring chicken. He ages 6 months more and is out of the ring. One of the most important things that people keep forgetting is that what made Triple G so effective when he was, destroying fighters in the middleweight division was his activity level, how often he fought. Since he's been messing around with Canelo, he hasn't fought. And that's the worst thing you can do to an aging fighter, keep him out of the ring. And that's exactly what Canelo and Golden Boy seem to be trying to do. No, I'm sorry. If I'm Triple G, I say forget about it, Canelo, and I move on, Sal.
Well, and you make all good, valid points, Billy C. I'll tell you what, because an aging fighter like Triple G does need to remain active, and whoever may be his opponent May 5th, he's got to get back in the ring, and he's got to keep that those limbs loose, and he's got to keep his mind sharp, and he's got to keep himself in condition, and fighting to stay in shape mentally and physically at this stage of his career is the utmost important. And I think he's got to really, really map out and say, hey, I got to fight now, and I got to fight September. And I think maybe decide when he's going to retire, if at the end of this year or early next year. But, I think he's got just a few good fights left in him. And we hope him the best, because we wish him the best, because he's a class act. He's a great fighter, great opponent. Never really said no to anybody to fight. So, yes, I think he's got to get the opponent for May 5th, and give us a good show and see what he can do and what he has. And you know what? Like I always said, a fighter's only as good as his last fight in the fans' eyes and the critics' eyes. So let's hope that he has a good display of what he could show us on May 5th, whether it's against Billy Joe Saunders or another formidable opponent.
Well, here's the thing about that, too. You know, the name that keeps popping up as being a fighter that could possibly be the guy who steps in the ring with Triple G on May 5th is Gary Spike O'Sullivan. He is a contender. He's got a record of 27-2 with 19 knockouts. This is a guy that's out of Ireland. We saw him. He's the guy with the John L. Sullivan type mustache. We saw him fight.
He's a good wiry fighter.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Sal. You know, I'm not saying that he's not good. I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he's good. I'm not saying he's bad. Okay. What I'm saying is that Canelo doesn't need to fight Gary Spike O'Sullivan. Canelo has to look. I'm sorry, Triple G. I keep I got Canelo's. I think I had some.
You and me both. We got Canelo on the mind.
I think I had some tainted pizza last night. I don't know, but
easy, not mine.
But it came from Mexico. But the truth that it was it was a Mexican pizza. I don't know, but no. The truth of the matter is that Triple G. He needs a substantial fight. He doesn't need a stay busy fight. Well, then again, maybe that's contradicting what I just said about Canelo. But the truth of the matter is Triple G should seek out Billy Joe Saunders. He should forget about, if he has to forget about May 5th, forget about May 5th. There's no one to blame about kicking May 5th to the curb except for Canelo. Triple G should sit. If I'm involved in Triple G's team, I say, listen, man, it's about two things. It's about you getting all the belts, and it's about you making a big payday. Let's be real. Those are the two issues, okay? How does Gary Spike O'Sullivan fit into that formula? He doesn't. All he does is he becomes a body that Triple G can take out his frustration on, and quite honestly, it's a risk that's not worth the reward. Triple G's not going to make a boatload of cash of fighting and beating Gary Spike O'Sullivan, and he runs the risk of sustaining. I go through this all the time, Sal. He runs the risk of sustaining a knockout, taking a punch that cuts him. He could lose. Something else, some freak thing could happen. He could put on a boring display and actually devalue himself. No, it makes no sense in any way, shape, or form for him to fight anyone other than Billy Joe Saunders. You could make the argument that Daniel Jacobs gets a shot too, but Daniel Jacobs is already fighting and is going to position himself to fight one of these guys in his next fight. So, no, there's one name on my radar if I'm Triple G, and that is Billy Joe Saunders.
Well, you make a good, valid point, Bill, and I'll tell you what, that would be a good fight, and that would signify a lot from Triple G if he was to get in a ring with Billy Joe Saunders and beat him. I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think that would be a very tough fight, especially if we see the Billy Joe Saunders we saw against David Lemieux. And because I think that Billy Joe Saunders really rose to the occasion and not only outboxed, out-hit, out-punched, outdid everything against a one-dimensional David Lemieux. And I'll tell you what, Triple G would offer a lot more, and I think it would be a good action-packed fight because I think Billy Joe Saunders would try to do his best to upset and to really come to the table and show the world what he's all about. And I think it'll be a very good clash, a very good fight, and I'm all supportive and for it.
Another good fight that has been mentioned, Bob Arum has tossed the name Gilberto Ramirez out at Triple G for the May 5th date. And then, of course, Demetrius Andrade was also a name that was thrown out. But Demetrius Andrade is involved with Artie Puello and Joe DeGuardia. Both guys usually outprice their fighters. So, but, I mean, those are two good possibilities. But, again, is the risk worth the reward for Triple G? Triple G has a goal in his mind, and that's Billy Joe Saunders' belt. That's the last belt that Triple G does not have. So if I'm Team Triple G, I'm looking for one fight, Sal. I'm looking for Billy Joe Saunders. And then after that fight, if he still feels, if he wins and he's got all the belts, and Canelo comes knocking, everything changes. Triple G becomes the guy in the driver's seat. Canelo can't. You see what Canelo's the damage that's happened to Canelo now. And if Triple G goes and fights Billy Joe Saunders and wins, all of a sudden, for the first time in his career, Triple G is in the driver's seat. And he could turn around to Canelo and say, no, what are you going to pay me? How many gazillions are you going to pay me to risk all these titles against you now that I'm old and I've accomplished everything I want to accomplish in boxing? What are you going to give me? Nah. But business, listen, in the business, excuse me, I almost choked on my cough drop. From a business,
easy, Tiger.
I know.
Easy.
From a business perspective, Sal, there's only one fight that makes financial sense, and that's Billy Joe Saunders for Triple G.
Well, you make a great point. And besides, that is his goal. Triple G's goal is to get all the belts. And guess what? It's a natural layup. That's a natural opponent right there is going to be Billy Joe Saunders. So, it'll signify the twilight or the end of a stellar career if he was to get past and win the fight against Billy Joe Saunders and receive all the accolades of having all the belts at one time. And then, when the dust settles everything else, forget about it. Then all the sanctioning bodies are going to say, well, you got to do this mandatory, that mandatory. They'll split them up and be crazy. But for the one instant, he will be the unified middleweight champion of the entire world. So I think it's a great way to really signify what his career has been all about. Not afraid to fight anybody. Comes in, he conquers, he's in great shape, and what better way to end a stellar career? If it goes as one would want to write that kind of script. But,
No
I know Billy Joe Saunders would have something else to say about it.
Exactly. Hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, Team Wilder and Team Anthony Joshua are playing games with all of us, boys and girls. I'll explain that in about 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you guys could be with us today. And before we went to break, we were talking about Canelo withdrawing from the Triple G rematch. And just as I went to break, I mentioned that I think that both teams, Wilder and Anthony Joshua, are playing games with us. But first, I got to thank my man Joe Olson for giving us a super chat, Sal. Big ups to Billy C and Sal, man. So I'm loving this, that these guys are actually putting their money where their mouth is and helping us out with this show. And I tell you, I'm so glad that my man Willie, basically shamed me into starting this super chat thing, because it's fun, man. I like it.
You know what? I'm just on the other spectrum here. You know me with technology, Bill, but I think it's a great idea too. So I'm glad that they're doing it, and man, let them keep coming. That's great.
So here's the thing. The bottom line is Deontay Wilder, and by the way, your boy Deontay Wilder canceled his conference call yesterday. Not sure if you were aware of that, but who knows the reasons why. But the bottom line is he canceled them, and he, with the cancellation, he made a statement, and he says, this is Deontay Wilder. First of all, I want to congratulate Anthony Joshua on his win last Saturday night. Anthony, I am so glad we finally heard from you on Saturday, and that you want to fight me as your next opponent, and you want the fight to happen in the UK. I accept that challenge, and I'm ready to come to the UK for my next fight. There is nothing on Team Wilder's side to prevent me from fighting you next. You also said on Saturday that your team is ready to meet with Shelly Finkel and Al Heyman from my side to get this deal done. They are also ready to meet with your team immediately. Let us know when. The sooner, the better. Thank you, Anthony. I can't wait to meet you in the ring. Now
that's nice. I like that.
Well, come on, Sal. You're smarter than that. Let's not fall
There's
into
more?
Let's not fall into that. Now, here's the thing. It's a smokescreen, and I'll tell you why. First of all, they have discussed the possibility of fighting before. This is a ploy to make a fan base believe that Wilder wants to fight and AJ does not. The part that they leave out, and the part that I want to make sure that people emphasize, is that the statement where he says that you're ready to meet with Shelly Finkel and Al Heyman to get the deal done. That's the most important sentence of this quote. And the reason is because if they offer him a deal, let's say 60-40, and they say, no, we want 50-50, well, then the next words that will be out of Wilder's mouth is they won't fight me. He's afraid to fight me. They'll leave out the offer and that they refused it. it's not all Wilder. Because Eddie Hearn comes back, who happens to be in New York, promoting the Jarrell Miller fight. He says that they don't believe that that Deontay Wilder really wants to fight. He says AJ's focus is on Deontay Wilder, but we don't believe his team really wants to fight. So we got to look at other options. If AJ is to fight in the summer and it's not against Deontay Wilder, then as long as Jarrell Miller beats Johan Duhaupas on April 28th, that'll put Jarrell in a great spot to land a shot at Joshua. So here's what all of that means to me. That means that they're playing games with us. That's what that means to me, Sal. Because the truth of the matter is there is no reason, none. You can't convince me of any reason why Jarrell Miller deserves a shot at Anthony Joshua. There is no reason why. When you look at Jarrell Miller, here's a guy who's unbelievably ranked at number 8 in the world by the computer. The WBC does not have him in their top 15, but the WBA, IBF, and WBO all have him ranked at number 3. My question is, why? There's one guy, one name on his resume. He's got 21 professional fights. He's got 20 wins and 1 draw. His draw against Joey Dwejko. Come on, Joey Dwejko shouldn't even be a heavyweight. He's got a draw against him. The only win on his resume that I would give him credit for is against Gerald Washington. But keep in mind, that was after Gerald Washington was already demolished. No, I'm sorry. This is a joke. Both teams, Sal, AJ's team and Wilder's team, are playing games with the boxing fans. I don't see it any other way.
No, you're 100% right. You know what? 100%. I agree with you. And that's what's happening right now. They're going to have the rhetoric that they're spewing out and pointing fingers at the other camp, not wanting to fight, when the reality of it is, like I said to you a long time ago, Bill, the old days when 2 people wanted to fight, they made it happen and gave us a great fight. And if these 2 warriors are really serious about wanting to give the fans what they want to see, then they will stop their rhetoric, they'll stop their disputes, they'll stop everything, pointing the fingers and saying why this, that, and everything else, and they'll get down to the table, the bargaining table, and they'll sign contracts, and they will give the fans what we deserve and what we want, and that's a great fight between the 2 of these world champions.
First of all, I gotta give another shout out. Thank God for the super chat, but I want to give another shout out to my man Willie, the same guy who shamed us into doing the super chat. He too says this show has been such an education for me, and that's probably one of the most appreciated responses we get from a lot of fans that email me and stuff. They say that they learned something by watching and listening to this show, and we do try to mix it with not only a discussion on the latest boxing news, but also from a historical perspective. We like to make sure that fans are up to date on that, and also we try to present the show in an entertaining fashion. So we appreciate when people recognize that. So I just want to thank Will for the super chat. And the thing that bothers me the most, Sal, is that today a lot of fans will buy into these types of media, press discussions, negotiations, whatever you want to call it. The truth of the matter is that if either side, now I'm not pointing a finger at Wilder's side or AJ's side, but if either side would throw out something that was accurate. In other words, AJ could say, or Deontay Wilder could say, I want to fight. He doesn't want to fight me. But then if he came back and said, okay, they made an offer. They offered us $100 to fight. We're not fighting for that. We want this. Then it gives you some substance. But that never is what happened. The only time that there was ever any kind of pointing at what the offer was the one time where Deontay Wilder's team turned down $7 million plus U.S. television rights to fight him in England, to fight AJ in England. Other than that, I've never heard an offer. And I also love when I hear people say, "Oh, well, Deontay Wilder, they offered such and such, and AJ wouldn't fight." That's the other joke, Sal. Deontay Wilder's team has never made an offer. They're waiting for an offer that they can, either accept or try to negotiate. They're trying to negotiate. Let's get the terms correct. They're trying to negotiate the offer from Team AJ. If Deontay Wilder had the money and had the backing and had the people that were willing to write the check and make a substantial offer to AJ, we would be talking a different tune right now, don't you think?
Well, of course we would. And like I said, Billy, before my Rip Van Winkle snooze fest in the 80s, let me tell you something. When I always say this, Bill, when two fighters wanted to get in the ring, it happened. They wanted to fight each other, it happened. The negotiations, the compromising, everything else was able to be going through the motions just to get the fight done. And, here it's a different world today. You have this stipulation, that stipulation, this concession, this agreement. This one has this one, wants this bargaining chip. No, they can't do this one. It's got to have that one. It's not that this has never happened. It has. But the magnifying effect of how much it has grown, and it's so many variables now that come into play when negotiating and taking a fight and making it signed, sealed, and delivered. Oh, a fight of this magnitude, I should say. That it really does hurt the fans because, like I said, if two fighters really want to fight the best and they really want to be in the ring together, they will make it happen no matter what because they know that they believe in the sport of boxing as being bigger than their own fight. So that's the old mentality, the old mindset in my eyes.
Well, I've predicted all along that the fight wasn't going to take place until sometime 2019, and I still feel strongly about that. Sal,
I don't know.
I know
Bill,
you're going to take
Nostradamus cap.
Well, we'll see. But Sal, we'll be back to you a little bit later. I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, I'm scheduled to have Larry Hazzard join us. So don't go nowhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
Similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
This is important news for women using birth control.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Hey, don't forget, we want you to join us September 13th, 14th, and 15th down on beautiful St. Simon's Island. We're going to be having our next Billy C. boxing event. I know it sounds like a long way away, but you got to make your plans now. We're going to have some boxing former world champions and celebrities. We're going to do a meet and greet. We got a golf tournament happening, a fishing tournament. We're going to have a fight night. We got some dinner going on at Sal's. We got memorabilia, all that stuff. So drop me an email if you want to get put on the list. Billy at Talkin' Boxing, TalkinBoxing.com. And one of the guys we're going to force, whether we got to tie him up and throw him in the back of the car and bring him down, he's coming. This guy right now, my man Larry Hazzard. Good morning, Larry.
Hey, good morning, Billy.
What's going on, my man?
Hey, listen, good to be around, man. I'm going to tell you. A little rainy out this morning, but not too cold. And it's not snowing.
I was just going to say, if you would like, I could give you the whammy and have some more snowfall. I mean, what, you didn't get enough this year or what?
Oh, no, man, I had enough snow. Snow used to be fun when we were kids.
Yeah. Now it equals nothing more than a nightmare. But in any event, hey, before we get started, I got to give a shout out to my man Joel, who just gave us a super chat. Says Sal and Billy C, best duo in boxing talk. Hey, I love it when people give us the accolades. Hey, Larry. This past weekend, Anthony Joshua fought Joseph Parker, unified the titles, now has all of the belts except for Deontay Wilder's. Some people, feel that the fight was a technical fight. Some people feel it was a boring fight. I saw some chinks in Anthony's armor. I felt that he couldn't cut the ring off, which bothers me. It's one of my pet peeves in boxing when you reach a championship level. And I see so many times fighters that are champions that don't know how to cut the ring off. First of all, before we get deeper into it, what was your thoughts of the fight itself?
Well, I thought it was both technical and very boring. And I tell you, Joshua, he actually lost some points from me. I was always pretty high on him, but it happens a lot with me. I get so excited about fighters. Some fighters, when they first come out, they seem to be really, really demonstrating that they're a breath of fresh air in the sport. And then as time goes on, they seem to kind of, just get back to normal. I was very excited, very, very excited about Joshua a few fights back. Man, right after that Klitschko fight, I was really, really, whoa, man, this is what we need in the heavyweight division. But now, after seeing him this past weekend, and after having seen what Deontay Wilder did against Ortiz, he lost some points. I'm not so sure. And, I'm always willing to be pleasantly surprised, but I'm not so sure if he could beat Wilder now. I saw, like you saw, some things that if Wilder is paying attention, may be to his benefit when they do meet. But I'm willing to, be fair about it. Sometimes a fighter with great skills oftentimes will fight to the level of the competition. And that could be the case with Joshua. I thought it was a technical fight also. And you must, really be a little bit more than a fan to enjoy some of the technicalities that are involved in the sweet science sometimes. Most basic fans, they just want to see excitement all the time, and we do expect a lot more from our heavyweights. But guys like you and I, Billy, who know a little bit more about the intricacies of the sport, have a greater appreciation for some of the technicalities, some of the technical stuff. And I saw some technical stuff on both sides. Parker, I thought, was being very calculated and technical. I think he put up a good challenge. Joshua, in my opinion, seemed to be in charge of the fight all the way through, although I thought that the score was much closer. I didn't think that Parker was getting credit for some of the stuff that he was doing, and he showed that he does have some good technical skills. So it was enjoyable. I'm not one to try to criticize the whole effort because I'm giving the guys credit for what they did. I thought that the fight was an enjoyable fight from a technical standpoint. I thought that the referee actually did a very poor job, and he may have taken away from some of what they were trying to do, because every time they got to a point where they were willing and ready to really engage, the referee must have saw the camera, and so he interfered during those opportunities, and so that also took away from what could have been a little bit more exciting of a contest.
The referee, everybody was blasting him. I was going to ask you about that. I heard one of the funniest things I saw on social media. A guy puts, I forget who said it, but it was funny. He says, I'm going to bed now after watching Anthony Joshua against Joseph Parker, but I'm afraid the referee's going to separate me from my sheets. Because the guy, it did seem bizarre. And like Dak said on our show the other day, he says, and he doesn't think he ever witnessed a referee actually trying to fix the tape. I mean, I don't know how long he was. I was wondering if he was going to wait for Anthony Joshua to trip over that tape before he stopped the action. But the way I saw that is that Joseph Parker was definitely one of the better opponents. It's kind of unfair to judge the two, even though I said basically the same thing. I said if you look at the last two fights of Deontay Wilder and you look at the last two fights of Anthony Joshua, you'd have to believe that Deontay Wilder, if he would have caught AJ, would have come out victorious. But the bottom line is Deontay Wilder is a one-trick pony. He only has the power. Now, it's helped him in 40 fights already. We did see him establish a jab behind Mark Breland one time. Since then, he's been a headhunter. That's not really going to work with Anthony Joshua unless he lands and knocks out Joshua. I mean, that's the counter of all of that. But what I saw with AJ was I saw discipline. I saw patience. I saw a guy that he couldn't cut off the ring. I wasn't happy about that, but you didn't see him get frustrated and go charging in and make a mistake. It seemed to me that both fighters were waiting for the other guy to make a mistake, and Parker was limited at how close he could get. So his jabs and stuff weren't effective because he had that 6-inch reach disadvantage. So he never was able to get in close, and every time he did, he would be in AJ's wheelhouse for that uppercut, and then the referee broke him up. So the only positive thing I saw from AJ was that he was disciplined in a sense where he didn't fall into any traps, and he seemed like the conditioning aspect was there. He didn't seem to tire like he has in the past. But like you, I'm sitting there shaking my head saying, I don't know, man. Wilder sneaks in one of those punches, and AJ might find himself on the canvas. So it's going to be interesting when and if they fight, which brings me to the next question. You're hearing all of this talk between these two. Wilder, Team Wilder, and Team AJ. I want the fight. Oh, he'd do the but you never hear the other part. We offered him X, Y, Z, and they turned it down. Or Eddie Hearn said yesterday, we don't believe he wants to fight. He tells everybody, he screams it. I lost hearing in an ear listening to Deontay scream how much he wants to fight. I wish they would just publicize the deal, like what was offered, why they're not taking it, etc. So you never know what to believe. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you there. You don't know what to believe, but I think it's just the normal wolf tickets that are being sold. I do believe that Wilder wants the fight. Certainly after looking at AJ's performance last week, if he was, kidding around before, he should really be serious now, because that certainly should give him more of an incentive. But I believe that Wilder wants to fight, and I don't question his heart. I don't question Wilder's heart anymore. He put up. I'm willing to give people credit, especially fighters, credit when they put up, when they talk the talk. He walked the walk in his last fight against a very credible opponent, Ortiz. Ortiz had him on the ropes, man. Okay, he came close to losing that fight. He got up off the canvas and he won. So I cannot criticize Wilder in the heart department, or at this point in the ability to change the tempo of a fight and come out victorious. He showed me a lot, and I believe that he does want to fight Joshua. I believe he wants to. And in my opinion, he stands a great chance of winning. So we'll just have to wait and see. They are both vulnerable in a lot of ways. But thus far, Wilder's vulnerabilities have not, been to his detriment. He has shown that he has the power, and thus far, that's all he's needed, to this point. Joshua, of course, he has a variety of skills, but however, in the last fight, he raised a lot of questions. But I do believe that, they're doing more than just selling wolf tickets. I believe that they do want to.
Are you there, Larry?
Serious. Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, I thought I lost you for a second.
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right.
So I do believe that Wilder wants that fight, and he stands a very good chance of winning.
I think they both want the fight. I think once again, because you have all the other hands in both sets of pockets, that's who's preventing the fight. The old days, it was always up to the fighter. The fighter picks up the phone and says, I want the fight, make the fight. I don't care what they offer, I want the fight. There's too many tangibles today. Eddie Hearn saying, well, Jarrell Miller is next if Deontay doesn't fight. Jarrell Miller has no business being in a fight. The issue I always have is, make this fight. There's no reason for these two not to fight, because once the winner emerges, we know we're going to get a second fight either way. And then, meanwhile, all those other guys that are trying to climb the ladder should do just that. Climb the ladder. Fight another contender. Show that you're worthy of fighting a champion. Jarrell Miller has no business even being in a discussion about fighting either of these two guys. So it's very disheartening. We're getting pressed for time, and I got to talk to you about a couple other things. First and foremost, the news that Triple G has withdrawn. Canelo has withdrawn from the Triple G fight. For whatever reason. I mean, this guy isn't even admitting that he, the evidence was against him. He still blames it on the tainted meat, which is, in my opinion, a joke. But the truth of the matter is this. My personal feeling, Larry, is that Triple G should move on. September doesn't make sense for Triple G, who's going to be 6 months older. I think that Triple G should focus on Billy Joe Saunders. Should he beat Saunders and then decide that he wants to fight Canelo later in the year, September, so to speak, then all of a sudden Triple G is in the driver's seat because he doesn't have to fight. There's no up until this point, Canelo, for some strange reason, was in the driver's seat. Right now, Triple G has a chance to switch sides. And for him to fight a guy like Spike O'Sullivan or anyone other than Billy Joe Saunders just does not make any financial sense to me. What's your thoughts?
Oh, and you're right. Great minds do think alike. Go to the next best guy. And and you're right again. Triple G now is in the driver's seat. And my hat goes off to Bob Bennett out at the or to the Nevada Commission. I was pleasantly surprised that the fight did not go on as scheduled because I'm a firm believer that money does dictate in the sport of boxing, and for some reasons it should. Okay, but Canelo has not admitted to this point anything other than that it was the meat. Okay, if you're going to stand by that, no problem. But he's no longer in the driver's seat as it comes to Canelo doesn't need him. Triple G doesn't need him now. Just move to the next guy. Time waits for no one. He's not getting any younger. So go to Saunders, okay, which is probably the next, biggest fight for him. And if you're victorious there, when you circle back around, if Canelo is still available and willing to fight, and he stops eating meat, then they can meet again. They can still fight. So that's the way I would move, And if his management is smart, that's the position that they push him in. And I think that his management will see it that way. I believe that the Saunders fight will be next up for Triple G.
It's the only fight that makes sense. Really, if his goal is to unify all the belts, he's got a shot with Saunders. And quite honestly, Larry, he could go make the same money fighting in the UK. He really can. And then come back and all of a sudden be the guy that makes the, okay, hey, well, Canelo, I'm going to retire. You want to fight me? This is what it's going to cost. And it'll be the first time that he gets to dictate instead of just taking the fight, So it is what it is. But Larry, I got a couple of other things. First and foremost, I got an email that was directed to you. It's from my man Joel. He says, "Hey Larry, I was very glad to hear that the UFC is returning to Atlantic City next month for a Fox Sports 1 card. It's been too long since the UFC has been to the boardwalk. Are you hoping to work with the UFC so that they can make more trips to Jersey, specifically returning to Atlantic City, where they all got started back 18 years ago? What's your thoughts?"
Oh, well, he's right on with that, and I'll start with the tail end of that. Yes, indeed. I'm very happy that they're coming back because I've been pissed off at them for quite a while now. We got these guys off the ground when no one else would accept them, and Donald Trump was very instrumental in that. Oh, and I don't have to go back over the history of, the establishment of the unified rules right in my office in Trenton. The major event that they had at the old Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, and they took off. Went to Vegas. They did a few shows here only because New York was not allowing MMA in, so they wanted to stay close to New York. After New York gave them a license, they forgot all about Jersey. So now they're back, and that's great, and I'm willing to forgive them because I look forward to working with them. MMA is a very popular sport, and I think that it's good for New Jersey. It's good for Atlantic City. So I'm looking forward to Dana White and those guys, even though they have a new ownership. Dana is still there. Mark Ratner is still there. So we're very happy that they have finally returned to where it all started for them. And we're looking forward to, many, many more exciting UFC events here. It's going to be a exciting night, April 21st at the Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, along with, a resurgence, I think, of boxing once the Hard Rock opens, once the Revel opens. All of these houses are scheduled to open this summer, this spring, and so we're looking for some exciting things back here in Atlantic City again. So I'm happy that the UFC is back.
Larry, I got another question. Today, right after your segment, actually, we're going to be doing a blast from the past on former two-division world champion Meldrick Taylor. And an interesting thing has come up about Meldrick Taylor, and I don't mean to ruin it for my viewers and listeners, but one of the things that we're going to be discussing is, obviously his career, and one of the things has a direct connection to the New Jersey Boxing Commission. Back in 2002, the New Jersey Boxing Commission wouldn't issue Meldrick Taylor a boxing license because he was displaying slurred speech, etc., and he refused to take a head scan, and ultimately it was his last fight. Was that something that you were involved in, or do you have any insight you can share with us on that issue?
Oh, absolutely. I refuse to give Meldrick a license. Back in, you say 2002. I thought it was like 2001, somewhere around there. Yes, we were involved in that. Meldrick had showed signs of slurred speech. He still does. If I'm not mistaken, Meldrick was acting, a little incoherent in public. And, Meldrick was mad at me for a while because of that. But I was not going to be a part of seeing any more harm, other than what had already taken place with Meldrick. And he refused, as I recall, to, go through the testing. So I refused to give him a license. And so I don't know if that was the final nail in the, lack of a better term, in the coffin of his career. But I certainly am glad to say that I refused to give him a license back during that time. I don't think he fought anywhere after that. Shame on anyone who would allow him, or who would have allowed him to fight, especially without taking the test. There's no doubt in my mind that Meldrick's career was over, and I would do the same thing over again, not only for Meldrick, but for any other fighter that comes here.
Larry, I know I threw my idea out at you a while ago, but this is another great example. If fighters were required to undergo a head scan prior to being issued a federal ID, and it was kept, on file, and then you follow a professional fighter's career, and then, with reputable commissions like yours in New Jersey and New York and Nevada, where they require head scans on a regular basis, and then many other commissions also require them after a knockdown or a brutal fight, depending upon what the commission views in terms of suspension, etc., You build this whole paper trail, if you will, of head scans. And then when there's a case like this that comes up, and you have a fighter who's displaying, signs outside of the ring, and you want to make an educated decision, the doctors are then able to put up on the board all of those head scans. Here's the head scan from before he turned pro. Here's the one, the first 3 years that was required, or first 2 years, whatever commission he's fighting under. Here's the one after that knockout loss. Here's the one, Larry Hazzard ordered recently, etc. And they can look and see look, this was the normal one. Look what's happened, and they could do it rather than just take a shot. Even in that case, if this guy never went through a head scan ever, and Larry Hazzard orders a head scan in order to give him a license in the state of New Jersey, and a doctor looks at this head scan, even though you heard this guy slurring his speech and says, well, it's within the tolerance of what a head scan should look like, there's chances that your hands are tied and you got to let the kid fight. And really, it was made without an educated decision. And I just think that it's a no-brainer. And it appalls me that money prevents this type of procedure from happening.
Well, you're absolutely right. And would you believe, Billy, in this day and time, there are still commissions that don't even require head scans. We have this ABC organization to which, I really don't get too involved with them because, you go to these conventions and you talk about everything other than unified medical requirements throughout the country. We still don't have them. Basic head scan. I'm not going to be party to some young guy with a family getting killed in the ring because of inadequate examinations that fighters should undergo before going into compete in a very dangerous sport. In my opinion, to talk about boxing safety, that's the greatest oxymoron that can come out of anyone's mouth. There's no such thing as boxing safety. Boxing is not a safe sport, okay? But what we try to do is minimize the dangers that we know are there. And one of the ways of minimizing some of these dangers is to make sure that these young men and now young women undergo as a stringent set of medical requirements that deal with detecting injuries in the head. The face and the head are not designed to be hit, but this is what we do, okay? So at least we want to minimize those dangers. And so to be party to allowing a young man or woman to go into a ring after displaying already that these dangers are there, that these problems are there, to me is a crime, and I'm not going to be party to it.
I agree with you. I agree. You got schools around the country not wanting to let tackle football be played until the high school level now because of head injury. And in boxing, they could take one simple precaution, and whether the fighter has to ante up the money, whether a promoter does, it's well worth it. And it's all about the safety. And by the way, before I let you go, I too gave Bob Bennett credit for what seemed to be his direction of suspending Canelo for a long period of time. And I've been very critical of Bob Bennett, but I think he had to do what he had to do. I mean, and it's a good. It's in the long run, it's going to help because it's going to make other fighters think twice. Because if they bust Canelo, they'll bust me. Is what people are going to think. But Larry, great time as usual, and look forward to you next week, brother.
Okay, me too, Billy. I'll see you.
All right,
stay well.
Man. Take care. That's Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazzard giving us his thoughts. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, our blast from the past. Meldrick Taylor's up. Don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks, like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free. Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And I want to thank my man Joel for another super chat, this time just for reading an email. And really, we don't require that. If you take the time to drop us an email, Billy@talkinboxing, TalkinBoxing.com, we'll take the time to read it. But my man Joel, always looking for ways to help in this show out. And trust me, I appreciate everything that all you guys do. From the bottom of my heart. I actually got a tear welling up in my eye right now, but I'm going to put that behind me, because right now it's time for our Blast from the Past, which is being sponsored in part by KOFantasyBoxing.com. So check that out, KOFantasyBoxing.com. Sign up today. Don't miss out on that. And it's also being brought to us in part by the Title Bout Championship computer game. Download your copy right now, right on BillyCBoxing.com. This week, our Blast from the Past features former multi-division world champion Meldrick Taylor. And coming on to tell us all about Meldrick Taylor is the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend himself. Oh, wait a minute. That's Sal Rocky Senecola. No. Coming to join us right now, our very own scholar, Alex Perpali. Good morning, Alex. It's Pierre Pali. I know. I've been murdering your name for 10 years now.
Oh, the scholar. I'm like,
you
what
are.
was that guy? Darren, the schoolboy Van Horn.
Yeah, but you're the, whenever I need to point out somebody that's got, some excellence in literature and, scholastically, I always go, well, nah, you don't want to talk to me. You don't want to talk to Sal. You need to talk to Alex, because he's our guy, The rest of us are just boxing people. But
I only have a BA.
I do a lot of BSing, but that's besides the point. But anyway, just to I know you chatted me up in one of the chat rooms about the ending of Meldrick Taylor's career, and it was I had assumed actually that Larry was involved, and he confirmed that he certainly was. So we could get to that later. But it just goes to show you, just off topic for a second, Alex, that a good commission makes a stand when they have to, right?
Absolutely. That was absolutely just terrific to hear from Larry, that bit of insight. And I think that in a way it does sort of jive with what's going on this week, I think, in boxing today, because I think part of what forced Canelo and Golden Boy to make the move they did was Las Vegas saying, look, we're not going to sweep this under the rug. We are going to have a hearing. And I think that's the way Larry described it, is that it comes down to more than that, is that you realize that at least if you're a responsible member of boxing, you realize that, hey, I'm in a position where I can prevent this guy from damaging himself any further. And like Larry said, it was something he didn't want to have on his conscience. And he made the right decision. And I think that's great. That's what our sport needs, that sort of sense of responsibility that people should. I mean, these guys give, and this is a perfect example, these guys give us so much in the name of entertainment, sports entertainment, really. It's a spectacle, boxing. It's both sport and spectacle because the stakes are so high. It's incredibly dangerous, and Meldrick Taylor is a great warning of that.
Yeah, well, it's happened. It's a familiar story, like you allude to.
It is.
I mean, it's it goes all the way back to the bare knuckle days, and the worst part about it. And Larry and I have talked about this many times, is when you have an organization, and I'll call them out, like the ABC, who claims that they're looking for the safety of the fighter, or even in the past, like Bob Bennett, all we care about is the safety of the fighters, and then they don't act on that, even though he seems to be at this point, Mr. Bennett. But, the truth of the matter is don't say you care about the safety of the fighters and then do something different. There's listen, it's a contact sport. Like you've always said yourself, Alex, the main purpose is to render your opponent unconscious. I mean, those are your exact words, and that's true. And the fact is, it's a tough sport. It's in the mean business. It's in the realm of, definitely brutal. But
it's legalized assault.
Exactly. But the truth is there are steps you could take to make it as safe as possible. And one simple step is to have a set of head scans on file and prevent guys. You got to save them from themselves. Isn't that the best way to describe it? Because a fighter's mentality, they're never going to feel susceptible. They're never going to feel like they're beatable in any way, shape, or form. That's the nature of their personality.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why I think the at least mainstream media avoids boxing coverage, because boxing is complicated. There's hypocritical, sort of contradictory things at play there. It is this sort of Gordian knot of sport, because it's brutal and it's bad for you, but at the same time it's beautiful. It's something human beings have always done. Evolutionarily, they've actually, more advanced primates have bones that sort of line up to absorb shock better in modern, like Homo sapiens and the subsequent humans, species that came after, Australopithecus, that showed that fist fighting, the ability to fist fight, had some sort of evolutionary purpose. So it is, and like Larry Murch, I think it was Max Kellerman who has said, is that you could be at there could be a basketball game, a baseball game, and a hockey game on all three corners of a block, and on the corner that's the fight, the crowd is running to go see the fight.
Well, it's evident when like a ball game happens and everybody's watching a game and all of a sudden the fight breaks out in the stands. Everybody's looking over at that. You know, they were not watching a game. Hey, listen, I just want to make a statement. You know, you mentioned Homo sapien. I don't really hold anyone's sexual preference against them. So just we don't have time for that on the show.
I got
you know. But anyway, we better start talking about Meldrick Taylor. Otherwise, I'm not going to ask you about all the other stuff, man.
Yeah, all right. So, and this guy is certainly deserving. You know, I don't know, Bill, if you have his autobiography, but I guess he did write one, 2 Seconds to Glory. It looks like it was a self-published book. I'm going to see if that's something you look for up in Canastota. But yeah, Meldrick Taylor, born in Philadelphia, October 19th, 1966. He was 5'7" tall. He started boxing in around 8 years old, and he was boxing at the Henley Boys Club. It was on Frankfurt and Kensington, for all you Philly fans out there. He was exceptional as an amateur, very quick learner. He went 99-4 in terms of his amateur record, and of course he was on the famous 1984 Los Angeles Olympic team that had so many other greats. That had Tyrell Biggs, Evander Holyfield, Pernell Whitaker, of course. And in a way, he was sort of he was the youngest gold medalist. When he and I don't know if that's probably still a record. It doesn't come off. I didn't check, and it doesn't come offhand that there's somebody younger who won a gold medal than he did. But he signed with Main Events afterwards, and really was just a remarkable prospect. He reminded people of Sugar Ray Leonard, with just blazing hand speed, incredible combination punching, and just a lot of fun to watch. Very slick fighter, but he always mixed it up. This is the kind of guy that was, if anything, that is what led to a part of what led to his demise as a professional was that he liked combat. He liked to stand there and trade. He had the speed to be more of an elusive fighter, but he had that desire to go tooth and claw with just about everybody. I guess even in the gym, the Duvas, when they started working with him, Georgie Benton was one of his trainers. It was always one of those things where they had to sort of hold him back and tell him get out of the ring. They'd rather he'd go 20 rounds on the heavy bag, because if it was up to him, he'd go 20 rounds of sparring with 4 different sparring partners every session. So you do wonder if that, more than just the Chavez fight, is also what did significant, neurological damage to him.
Hey, speaking of which, I have a note on that fight. The first time that he fought Julio Cesar Chavez twice, and this is really just a bone I'm throwing at Coach, because people are always talking, especially young fans that don't know, and they always put the Mayweather 50 he broke Rocky Marciano's record, and we try to ground people and explain to them that it's only significant for the heavyweights, and right now Deontay Wilder has actually a legitimate shot at tying or even breaking that record. But in 1990, the first time that Meldrick Taylor fought Julio Cesar Chavez went into that fight 68-0. 68-0. And then when he fought him the last time in 94, Chavez was 90 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. So please, when people start telling me what a great achievement Mayweather had by getting to 50-0, they got to look into the history books, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. That is a very impressive record, and it was an enormous fight. And I tell you, it's kind of crazy when you look back, because it occurred just 34 days after Buster Douglas had shocked the world in Tokyo and stopped Mike Tyson. So, boy, 1990 was a hell of a year. And of course, the thing that's crazy about it is, as good of a fight as Douglas Tyson was, Meldrick Taylor versus Julio Cesar Chavez, of course, was an all-time classic. I mean, I was watching it last night. You don't see fights like that very often, and they're even rarer today. We still do in terms of brutality, but the thing about this, Bill, was that this was a fight. It was pure just who could hurt the other guy the most, but it was also two of the premier fighters in the sport at the time. I mean, like you said, over 60 wins. Chavez was considered one of the pound-for-pound guy, and Meldrick Taylor, was taking a shot at that. And that's what's, I mean, you could spend the whole blast talking just about this fight, because it is... There's so many things, again, like I mentioned, that Gordian knot idea. There's so many things about this fight. There's tragedy. There's amazing things about it. There's controversy. But the brutality of it is just is remarkable. And I think that one of the things that it's so obvious when you watch it, it's just Taylor's dominating. He's absolutely dominating the guy who most everyone thought was the best on earth.
Yeah, well, Taylor was an extremely talented fighter. There's no question about it. He was a guy that, had it all. And when you look at his resume and you see some of the wins, they speak for themselves, not to mention, it really doesn't surprise you that he was that kind of guy, being born and raised in Philly. I mean, what a place for fighters. But, going all the way back to the mid-'80s, wins that he had against Harold Brazier and Primo Ramos and James Buddy McGirt when he won his first world title. And that's a guy that I feel is underrated big time. Veteran fighters like Jamie Balboa, and he lost to Chavez, but then he came back and beat Aaron Davis and Luis Garcia, Glenwood Brown, who was a big name and a quality fighter as well. He did lose to Terry Norris, but that was moving up in weight. He was a junior middleweight that he challenged and came back down. His last big fight was his second fight against Julio Cesar Chavez, in which he was stopped in 1994. He did continue for another 7 years of his career, but never reached that level again. I mean, he did fight and win some rising stars, some names, etc., but never got back to that world champion level. And as we know now, it could have been a result of his failing health. I mean, that could very well have been it.
Oh, yeah. And I think that if there is a fighter where, and I think you and Sal, I have to see that documentary that you did about the Perret-Fulmer fight. But if there's a fighter that I can remember, watching his whole career and thinking, boy, that guy's never been the same after one particular fight. This is definitely the guy, because he was never the same after, even though, like you said, he did beat Aaron Davis. For me, I really got turned on to Meldrick Taylor. I was a big Buddy McGirt fan, so I was rooting for Buddy McGirt when that fight happened. And I remember just in Taylor's performance, that's a really fun fight to watch, and Taylor sort of won me over. So I was certainly rooting for him against Chavez. One of the things that's interesting, I was watching some of Legendary Nights. I'm not sure if it's all of the Legendary Nights. HBO, of course, did that series of boxing documentaries, and they picked certain fights. That was one of them, and I think it's probably the most popular one. People, when you go to Canastota, Billy C., this is the fight almost, wouldn't you think that the fight people probably bring up most when you talk to them in Canastota, other than like whatever's the big fight that's on the horizon at the time? If they talk about classic fights, almost all of them, everybody feels one way or the other about the stoppage. One of the things in that Legendary Nights that I was going to say that I thought was a little weird, at least the clip that I saw, is Lou Duva claimed that they had a problem with Richard Steele being appointed because of how he had judged refed some Tyson fights. Now, I think that's incorrect because the Tyson-Ruddock fight was the one that people thought was, a Don King favored stoppage for Mike Tyson because, Ruddock got stopped kind of quick. But that occurred exactly 1 year and 1 day after the Meldrick Taylor fight. So I don't know what he's pointing to, and maybe you do, about Richard Steele like being some pro-Don King ref. But, of course, everybody who doesn't know, if you watch the fight, it's sensational. Meldrick is way ahead, just blazing hand speed. And but he's, by like the 10th round, you're noticing, wow, his eyes are swelling because Chavez is getting in very few punches around, but the ones he gets in are mean, nasty, bruising, damaging punches in close because Meldrick's standing right in front of him. The Duva team, the strategy was to keep Meldrick off the ropes, keep Chavez in the center of the ring, and just give him like a smaller square within the square. And Meldrick Taylor did it, but the problem was that he was always in punching distance, and he was getting beat up. And by the time you get to like the 10th, 11th, 12th round, it's very clear that Meldrick Taylor has been beaten up. And in that 12th round, another big knock on the Taylor team was that they told him he needed the round. He didn't need the round. And when you watch it, Sugar Ray Leonard, one of the commentators with HBO, has a moment where he says, this is freakish. He said, because look at what's going on right here. Meldrick Taylor's the aggressor. And he is. He's pressing the action in round 12, a round he doesn't need. And, but that's what, in a way, that's smart by Chavez, was that he just waited for him and broke him down and didn't care about losing points. He was breaking the guy down.
It's such a controversial game plan because we've seen it. We saw it with Oscar De La Hoya fighting Floyd Mayweather. When you can't assume what the judges are seeing, and I could see a corner man giving instructions to a fighter who, on most cases, is winning the fight, and just don't become complacent, don't do this, do that. But you are 100% correct against a fighter like Julio Cesar Chavez, who was the kind of guy who tried to break you down and wait for his shot going into that last round. Maybe be somewhat aggressive, but be safe, to suggest that you have to win by knockout or you need this round to win to press your fighter, especially in the final round, is stupid advice in my opinion. As far as the Richard Steele controversy, I agree with you. It is one of the things that are constantly discussed. And Richard Steele's career was never the same after that. In his defense, which he says that he never knew, he doesn't watch at the time. He's just, caring about the fighters, et cetera, which I've always said to myself, well, you do know the time because you're hearing 10-second warning bells or whatever. He waved off that fight. The unwritten rule is you got a fighter who's winning a fight, he deserves some kind of chance. The other fight that people argue was the Tommy Hearns Sugar Ray Leonard fight. A guy where Tommy Hearns was winning that fight for the majority, and then he gets in trouble in that 13th round or whatever it was, and the fight's immediately waved off. Yes, you want to look out for the safety of the fighter. In Meldrick Taylor's case and in Tommy Hearns, both cases could have been, well, the ropes are keeping them up. Let's see how they react after an 8 count. So I don't know. It's neither here nor there, but it is a historical controversy that will never go away.
Oh, and one of the things, too, about it is there's blame in every direction because, like you said, in a way, you can't fault the Duva team because they're in Vegas. They know Chavez. People want to protect his record. he's the Don King fighter. Maybe it was smart to to come out hard in the 12th round. Chuck Giampa had Chavez ahead, but the other two judges had Taylor comfortably ahead. The other thing that happens, I mean, think about this, is in that little get-together they had that time where Mike Tyson and Larry Holmes were at the Turning Stone Casino and just talked to fans 1 year before the Canastota weekend, the big induction weekend. One of the things Mike Tyson says in that little get-together was 1 second is such an eternity in a fight. And that fight is a perfect example. So much goes on because it was 2 seconds left on the clock, 2 ticks of the clock. One of the things that was happening, and this is another mistake for Duva, he was rushing up the ring. Kenny Bayless, who was security at that time, he wasn't a referee yet, was running to stop Lou Duva because you're not supposed to go into the ring. He could have gotten his fighter disqualified. Now, was he running up to stop the fight? Or was he running up because he thought the round was over? Somebody in his corner said the round is about to end. The other thing, so Taylor gets distracted by seeing his cornerman on the apron. The other thing that happened is if Richard Steele had taken just a second and looked over his shoulder, Chavez had drifted way out of the neutral corner. He could have taken 1 second to say, hey, get back in there. By the time he turns back, the bell's rung. So there's so many things that could have happened. In a way, you can't, and you have to come back down to this. The referee, no matter how much time is left, is supposed to make the decision about, is this fighter ready to go out? And he didn't say, I'm okay. And the thing about it was he was brutalized. Looking at Meldrick Taylor, he was a mess. He had a gash in his lip that had been bleeding since like the second round. When they took him to the hospital later, he had lost 2 pints of blood. He was urinating blood. He had broken an orbital socket around his eye. The next day, he went to a press conference that where the Duvas argued that, it was a bad stoppage and they were very angry, wanted to try to get some sort of restitution if they could. The doctors told him, you're not going, you should stay here. And Taylor said, no, I'm going, and just appeared at the press conference with dark glasses and a little, butterfly closure on his face. But he claimed that he had been seeing multiple images of Chavez from early on. So, he had blurred vision from that broken eye socket. So it was an amazing thing. I mean, there was no question Richard Steele had a very damaged fighter in front of him.
Hey, Alex, we're out of time, my man. Just give us a quick title bout summary.
He did extremely well against, I put him in because he was a welterweight and junior welterweight badass. I put him in against Mikey Garcia, and the first time he fights him, he beats him by unanimous decision. 2 cards of 115-113, 1 card of 114-113. When they fight 100 times, Meldrick dominates, 63 victories, 27 defeats, and 10 draws. He stopped Mikey Garcia 14 times. I'm not sure. I think he might have had some problems with Garcia. Garcia was able to score 15 KOs in his 27 victories. I also, for the hell of it, put him in against Keith one-time Thurman because he did have fights at welterweight, of course. He beat Aaron Davis at welterweight. He dominates Keith Thurman over 100 fights, 78 victories, 19 defeats, 3 draws. He's stopped 1 time, 13 times.
Very good. Great job, as usual, Alex. Meldrick Taylor, former world junior welterweight. And Alex, this is another guy I think should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. But, it is what it is. But Meldrick Taylor,
I would put him in there over Gotti.
No,
come on. Thrills and thrills at the top of the world, at the top of the sport.
I know. Meldrick Taylor, former world junior welterweight and welterweight champion. He did challenge for the junior middleweight title. Had a career record, 38 wins, 20 by knockout, 8 losses, which he was stopped 4 times, 1 draw, 328 328 rounds with a 43% knockout ratio. Meldrick Taylor, our blast from the past today. Alex Perpali, great job as usual. We're going to take a short break. When I come back, we'll have Sal Rocky Senecola back with us. Don't go nowhere.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening and watching to the Billy C. Show. Hey, don't forget about our next Billy C. Boxing event. It's taking place September 13th, 14th, and 15th in St. Simon's Island. You're not going to want to miss this one. That's for sure. If you want to get some info on it and you haven't heard us mention it on this show, just drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. And speaking of the St. Simon's area, I want to give a shout out to in Brunswick, WGIG on the iHeartRadio network, 1440 AM, who plays us all the time. And joining me right now is my man Sal, who loves to listen to himself on WGIG, don't you?
I do, and boy, I'll tell you, I listen Sunday mornings where they play us, and I want to thank again Scott Rifen and all the staff at the 1440 WGIG, Brunswick, Georgia, for allowing us the opportunity to broadcast the show. And Bill, you have no idea how many fans we are gathering and gaining down here. I mean, I go to the UPS store to do some work. There's a guy comes up to me when he heard someone call me Sal, and he says how much he enjoys. He works all night, the night shift in a warehouse, and on the way home, he drives home. He loves the show. It revitalizes him. He loves to listen. And then for Easter, I took my family to church. And one of my favorite priests, great guy, and Father Jim, he said, and he mailed me some piece on Carlos Monzon, as a matter of fact, really interesting pieces on Carlos Monzon. He's a big fight fan, and he says that he listens to us every Sunday morning before church. And I said, wow, that's great, Father. And I thanked him. He says he loves the show. So I want to give a big shout out and say hi to Father Jim. He's a great man. And we love to have everybody down here also listen to our show. So thank you so much for your support. And let's let Scott Rifen know at WGIG 1440 that you do enjoy listening to us. Thank you.
I got to give a special shout out to my man George Russell from WSMN 1590. In Nashua and all the other affiliates that I don't happen to have the call letters in front of me. But can't keep all these shout-outs. Sal, if we gave shout-outs to every TV and radio network we were on these days, we wouldn't have time to talk about stuff like this. Right now, Mayweather. You remember him, Floyd Mayweather.
Floyd, yes.
He apparently the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission has a new task force called the Cyber Unit, and apparently yesterday, or actually on Monday, it announced that it's arrested and charging founders of a country called Centratech that they basically fraudulently stole money from investors. And the main guy that helped drive people to them was Floyd Mayweather. Apparently, Centratech paid for Floyd's endorsement, who touted the company on his own Instagram and Twitter accounts, telling his followers to invest their money into the ICO, which they did. And Mayweather claimed that he put his money in there, and now the SEC is charging Mayweather sponsor with fraud. So it just goes to show you, just because somebody says to do something, it's like what my mom used to say: if your friend Johnny told you to jump off the bridge, would you jump off the bridge? Well, I don't know. If Johnny says so, Ma. But what's your thoughts on Mayweather aligning himself with a fraudulent company, Sal?
Well, it's never good, and you never want to be on the bad side of the SEC or NASD or any one of those, feel like saying sanctioning bodies or those regulatory commissions. I mean, I spent many, many years with my securities license, and was with Northwestern Mutual Life, and boy, we had to document every little thing we did. We got to cross our T's, dot our I's, make copies, do this, do that, and it was just for this purpose, to make sure that everything was on the above board and on top of the table. And this could be a bad situation, and even to stick up for Floyd, him being maybe an unknowing partner or a voice to direct these people, for compensation, but maybe he should have looked before he leaped, in a sense, that to be aligned in such a thing, because once the SEC opens up that book, they're relentless, and they like to get the facts straight. This is how they do protect the unknowing public. So my hats off to them, and I hope it all comes out.
Well, in defense of Floyd Mayweather, here's a guy that is just so money hungry that he took the payoff to endorse this company, and then the company turns out to be fraudulent. I mean, the only thing that they're doing now is they're just tying Floyd's name with this. They can't possibly charge Floyd with knowing it, unless they find that he knew that it was a big scam. But that's too much effort and money on their case. But wait, there's more, because not only is Floyd in some trouble, but Adrian Broner's at it again.
Come on,
he is now being sued by the woman that Kayla Cruz, who he groped in her genitalia area in a Georgia mall. Apparently, she's suing him, and her attorneys say that she's suing him for the emotional distress and the physical injuries she suffered. So, some of these guys got to learn how to keep their hands to themselves. But got a couple of emails I want to read real quick as we're running quickly out of time. This is from my man Mitch. He says, and concerning Canelo, he says, it leads me to these questions. I have to question his character. I listened to the press conference. This guy still claims it was the meat. He also claims he's never cheated and never will. He has a doctor who's over-explaining the meat contamination situation in Mexico. He's got doctors explaining the numbers fall into meat contamination range. He has the WADA, W-A-D-A, appointed doctor who's going to say the same. He has the WBC and WBA already back in his story. You even had the WBC head to reasons why they can't suspend him. So why are you withdrawing at this point? He's asking Canelo. An innocent person would have taken this case to the hearing and fought, no matter what the Nevada State Athletic Commission said or did. The Nevada State Athletic Commission wasn't going to find you innocent now that you withdrew, so why not pretend it, stick to it, and fight it? He says, Mitch says to him, he sees that it's even more of an indication that he's guilty at any other time since being popped. He feels that this withdrawing backfired. He has absolutely zero respect and even less belief for Canelo at this point. Then, to make it all worse, he tried to make Triple G look like he didn't want to fight him by making the accusations that he's a cheater. He says to me, this is a big red flag of guilt. I got to be honest with you, Sal. I agree with my man Mitch. You know, if you're that adamant about being innocent, you fight it to the max. You know, I mean, you don't withdraw. To me, that proves guilty. And to suggest Triple G didn't want the fight, it sounds more to me, like we talked about in the beginning of the show, that Canelo withdrew so he could add another 6 months onto it. I'm telling you, I feel very strongly about Triple G not even wanting to fight Canelo.
Well, I'll tell you, Bill, you said it earlier, and this could be a ploy on Canelo's part, but also I will tell you this, that the number one alarm that went off in my head when you were telling us a story earlier was exactly what Mitch was saying. I was saying, if Canelo is that innocent of this, and he is going to stay with the story of the unknowing ingestion of the tainted meat, then he should stick to it. He should stay with it, and he should ride it to the date and show up for the fight. If it's not stopped by the commission, if it's not going on, he should have played the cards out and stayed with his story. Because by him pulling out and canceling that and everything else, also does show that, you know, maybe he does have something to hide. I don't know. That would be my opinion.
We got one other email here, and just so people understand my comment, I don't think, I'm not agreeing with Canelo. I don't think that Triple G used that to get out of the fight. I feel at this stage, Triple G should move on and forget about Canelo. He doesn't need Canelo. Like I said to Larry earlier, it's the first time that actually Triple G could find himself in the driver's seat of a possible negotiation when and if he decides to fight Canelo in September. At this point, there's one fight, in my opinion, for Triple G, and that's Billy Joe Saunders. Final email I got today is from my man, Coach. He says 2 in 1. The one is the Mayweather, his connection with the fraudulent case that I just mentioned. The other one is, he says, after waking up from my nap during the Anthony Joshua-Joseph Parker fight and killing time reading about boxing and television, while all this all kinds of wide results, I found a strange point of information. When it comes to boxing in terms of viewership, putting aside pay-per-view fights and during the top fights of 2017 that were on TV, were Pacquiao versus Horn, 3.1 million on ESPN, 4.4 million via cable, which was Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia. A CBS broadcast cable fight did 2.2. Lomachenko versus Rigondeaux, 1.85 on cable. And on a straight television broadcast, Spence Peterson peaked at 700,000. HBO Crawford Diaz was reported slightly under 1 million. He says what's strange is finding, in comparison, the new Roseanne TV show debuted and had 25 million people. What does boxing need to do? Truthfully, boxing would never compete with that kind of a show, and the reason is simple. Television, there's such a wide scope of topics or types of shows, etc. Sports is a niche on television. Sports on television is a niche within other television shows. Boxing is a niche within sports. So you got a niche within a niche. It'll never. I got a niche. I got a niche on my back. But no, that's a niche. But no, the truth of the matter is that boxing will never have those numbers. And I'm not suggesting that Coach was trying to make that point. It could never have those numbers, but what it could show, and the numbers that he is showing in comparison to Roseanne, are a hell of a lot larger numbers than they had been several years previously, with the exclusion of the big pay-per-view fight. So I think boxing is well on its way. And again, you know, I'm an Italian American and I'm an American first, but kudos to the UK and the rest of Europe and the Ukraine, because in a way they're forcing the interest in boxing, and they're being able to do it with fighters that are basically selling themselves. What's happening is these fighters that nobody's ever heard of all of a sudden is put on television, and you may have a casual fan that tunes in. Next thing you know, you got a regular fan now, a fan that wants to see more of Lomachenko or wants to see more of Anthony Joshua or you know, all the other fighters that, you know, Kell Brook was a great example that you know, are busting onto the scene. You know, their willingness to fight whoever, whenever, wherever is appreciated by fans, Sal. And once again, the American boxing people, the fighters themselves, are missing the boat. They're being coaxed into listening to advisors that are telling them all about the money, which I agree about making the most money. But you can't just... Jarrell Miller is a perfect example. This man has no business fighting for any title, let alone a world title, and he's going to get a shot just because he's of his mouth. This is a guy that can't pass a buffet. I mean, come on. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, you make some good, valid points, Bill, and it is true. You say it all the time. I mean, a lot of the reasoning behind it is because we got non-boxing people directing and commanding the direction of the sport at hand. And sometimes this is something that really just boils down to the nuts and bolts of business in boxing. And, you know, there's politics in boxing and everything else that goes into play. It comes into play. So, you know, that's why there are so many, as I say, use the word minutia, the things going on under the table that to produce, to make, to get things done. It's just not as easy as it used to appear to be.
No, it's not. But, I mean, where do you think it should go from here?
Well, I think, again, I think it needs a little clarification. I think we need to have it a little more transparent, the sport of boxing. And I think, you know, that the relation between the fighters, the promoters, and as well as being tied in with the fans, I think there need to be more of an opportunity here, like I said, for the transparency to have these fights on the surface being made and being, you know, made with the idea that everything's above board.
The bottom line for me, Sal, and I'll just leave it at this, there's just a more obvious willingness of fighters outside the U.S. to fight. I mean, forget about who it's against, where it is. I mean, how much am I getting paid? All of that seems to be a sideline story. With U.S. fighters, it's the other way around. The first story is how much you pay me, how much I get paid, you know, and then everything else is a sideline. Who it's against, where it is, blah, blah, blah. They don't care. It's the money first. And that is hurting the sport. It hurt the sport for so many years, and we finally seem to be turning that corner. And if the U.S. fighters aren't careful, the rest of the world is going to take over this sport. And like we've said on this show, and Dax brought it up several months ago, you know, boxing is clearly a global sport. It doesn't need. They don't need to come to the U.S. anymore. You know, guys like Eddie Hearn are proving that. Guys like Anthony Joshua, who sell out stadiums, 80,000 people, they're proving it. You know, and then when I hear these people, they sell the tickets for nothing. That's BS. Where do you think all that money's coming from? They're not selling the tickets for nothing. You know, U.S. fighters better get with it, man. You know, not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. Deontay Wilder could set a precedence. You know, he could take what they offer him and have it back end. Go over and beat Anthony Joshua, then come back in the U.S. and make that you know, $50 million. You know, so that's what I think. But anyway, on this day in boxing history, boys and girls, April 4th, in 1990. 1990. Okay. Juan Nazario knocks out Edwin Rosario in the 8th round to win the WBA World Lightweight title. Took place at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Edwin Rosario changed Hector Camacho's style forever. If you ever want to see who I think is one of the best fighters of all time, watch Hector Camacho prior to his fight with Edwin Rosario. He had it all. On this day in 2005, Katsunori Takayama wins a 12-round decision over Isaac Bustos to win the WBC World Strawweight title. Took place in Japan. On this day in 1970, one of Sal's boys, Bob Forster, knocks out Roger Rouse in the 4th round to retain his WBC and WBA World Light Heavyweight titles, and that took place in Montana. On this day in 1941, Lou Nova knocks out Max Baer in the 8th round of their heavyweight fight at Madison Square Garden in New York City. This was Baer's final professional fight. He ends his career with 66 wins, 51 by knockout, 13 losses, and no draws. And who was the son of Max Baer, Sal?
Buddy Bear, Jethro from the Beverly Hillbillies.
That's right, Jethro from the Beverly Hillbillies. And finally, on this day, April 4th in 1944.
Right.
Yeah, you did. It wasn't Jack Dempsey. On this day, April 4th in 1944, Manuel Ortiz wins a 15-round decision over Tony Oliveira to retain his world bantamweight title, and that took place in Los Angeles, California on this day. In 1944. Hey, boys and girls, that concludes our show for today. But I would just want to tell you guys this. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.
Bam.